So a few weeks ago, I put out a video about the nuclear war from Fallout, basically claiming that Vault-Tec definitely didn't start the nuclear war, and while I still firmly believe that, today I want to sort of elaborate on that a little bit and talk about specifically what I meant, because the video did get quite a bit of heat, and I think there are some misunderstandings that I need to clear up, and some points that I want to put forward that I forgot to mention in that video. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So before we begin, I'm just going to leave a link up in the corner up there to that video if you want to go check it out. I recommend watching that before watching this, so if you haven't seen that, go check that out and then come back here. So let's just dive right in with the first big point here, and it's that I think the show unambiguously is saying that Vault-Tec started the nuclear war in the show's universe. I just think that that clashes a lot with other established canon, and that creates a problem. Now, if the show had established that it took place in sort of a separate canon from the video games, then this would be less of a problem, but because the show's canon has to coexist with the video games canon, that creates some conflict. And while the video games are pretty clear with the process of events, the order of events, which I mentioned in that video a few weeks ago, the TV show does no such thing. So while I'm working on the assumption that the order of events is the same in the TV show, if it were a completely different canon, then this would be way more feasible. And in that vein, I think it's very likely that when we get season 2 of the show, it does pretty much work on the explicit belief that Vault-Tec started the nuclear war. I'm not denying that the show exists or denying the end of the show. I just think that plot point doesn't work well with a lot of other aspects of the way the Fallout universe has described the nuclear war. That being said, I still think there are ways that could be factored into these series of events that occurred, and I'm going to throw those out there now. And the key modification we can make to make these two work together is the word yet. Vault-Tec didn't start the nuclear war yet. There's a lot of elements that suggest that Vault-Tec didn't start the engagement we see on screen. There are a lot of things that I talked about once again in that video a few weeks ago. But it's possible that maybe they were planning on starting it, but never actually did. So let's start out with the fact that a couple people pointed out in the comments, and that's that the vaults weren't all done yet. If you were intentionally going to end the world and you could pick the date that the world ended, you would wait till all of your bomb shelters were done to do it. It just seems like lost revenue. That these shelters could have been holding people that would have paid Vault-Tec, and that just simply they weren't there to do it when the bombs fell. Secondly, it seems like a lot of the personal connections that Vault-Tec employees are seen having in the show, like for example the ghoul's daughter, are just out and about when the bombs fell. If they knew that the war was coming on that day, don't you think you'd have your family in the bomb shelter ahead of time, or at least close to the bomb shelter so they could easily be whisked away there when the war began? Perhaps Vault-Tec was planning on dropping the bombs, but didn't because they didn't have time to do it before they dropped organically. This doesn't address Moldaver basically saying that Vault-Tec burned all their competition 200 years ago. And the simple explanation for this is maybe that's what she thinks. Maybe she had all this information saying that Vault-Tec was contemplating dropping the bombs, and then the bombs fell, and the obvious conclusion that one could draw in that circumstance was that Vault-Tec did it. Now, all that being said, once again, I think the show is trying to say that Vault-Tec did drop the nuclear weapons, and I'm trying to say that it doesn't work with the rest of the canon unless we really make some stretches here, which we can do, but it ends up saying that they can't have been the ones that did it if we believe that all of this canon is together. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to say that the show isn't canon or that the show's story doesn't count or even that the show isn't very good, because, quite frankly, I really like the show and I love the games. I've loved Fallout for over a decade, so the show really, I enjoy it. I'm not trying to say it's bad, but I am trying to say that I see this key conflict in what is, at least in my opinion, one of the most interesting parts of the Fallout universe, and that is the nuclear war itself, and some things that aren't lining up, and that's what I've really been trying to say. Ultimately, it's just fiction, and perhaps these are just two different accounts from two different perspectives of the same series of events, and they're not designed to line up because they're all being told from different perspectives. And that being said, like I said at the end of the last video, once again, this is all fiction. This is all fantasy. You can believe what you want to believe, and pick which lore you think makes a more interesting story. Do you think it's more interesting if China drops the bombs, or do you think it's more interesting that Vault-Tec drops the bombs? Which option do you prefer? If you'd like to learn more about how that war actually played out and my analysis of the strikes we see on the West Coast at the opening of the show, I'll leave a link up here to my video breaking down the strategic view of those strikes, what kinds of weapons were likely used, and how that attack played out, at least from my perspective as someone who does choose to believe that China fired the first shots of the Great War. And I'd like you to let me know down in the comments what you think makes a better story. China dropping the nuclear bomb, or the United States dropping the nuclear bomb, or Vault-Tec dropping the nuclear bomb. Which one do you prefer if you could pick one of these options for the primary line of canon here? And if you have anything else you'd like to see me cover in Fallout or anywhere else in science fiction, you can let me know down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.